On May 16, 1770, the Dauphin of France, Louis Auguste, married the Austrian Archduchess Maria Antonia of Habsburg-Lorraine. The day of their wedding, the couple were respectively 15 and 14 years old. Louis Auguste was a grandson of King Louis XV and the heir to the French throne after the early death of his father, Louis Ferdinand. Maria Antonia, who would be known at the French court as Marie Antoinette, was the daughter of Maria Theresia of Austria and Francis I, Holy Roman Emperor. The naive Marie Antoinette had a carefree childhood and loved dancing and making music. The marriage between Louis Auguste, who would go on to be crowned Louis XVI of France, and Marie Antoinette had been arranged by their parents and grandparents. Relations between France and Austria were hostile at the time. To end the poor relationship between the countries, uniting the royal families would be a godsend. Thus, the by-proxy marriage between Louis and Marie Antoinette took place on April 19, 1770 in Vienna, after which Marie Antoinette departed for France. On May 7, Marie Antoinette reached the border between the Habsburg and French territories, where she was subjected to a diplomatic ceremony so that the Habsburg Archduchess would enter French territory as a French woman. Although Marie Antoinette was only 14 years old at the time, she was requested to undress in an antechamber which still counted as Habsburg territory, after which she was dressed from head to toe in Parisian fashion. On May 14, 1770, 2 days before the ceremonial wedding, Marie Antoinette and her husband, Louis Auguste, met for the first time in the woods halfway between Vienna and Versailles, near Compiègne. Louis Auguste was in the company of his grandfather, King Louis XV, and 3 of the king's daughters, who were also called the Mesdames Tantes. Marie Antoinette had traveled to the rendezvous point alone, without any accompaniment of her family. Upon her arrival in Compiègne, Marie Antoinette was introduced to Louis XV. The young girl knelt before him, but the king hurried to lift her up, kissed her on the forehead, and reassured the bride-to-be all would be well. He then gestured to his grandson, the Dauphin, to come forward. The shy, surly-looking boy was hesitant to kiss Marie Antoinette, a sign of the problem to come. After spending the night in Compiègne, the royal company traveled towards Versailles. The official wedding ceremony took place on May 16 under the direction of the Archbishop of Reims. Upon signing the marriage certificate, a spot of blotched ink appeared on Marie Antoinette's signature. Many considered it to be a bad omen. At the end of the day, the newlyweds retired to their chambers, accompanied by the entire court to bear witness that the newlyweds were ending up in the same bed. Louis XV, quite the ladies' man, reportedly even gave his grandson some advice before the couple said goodnight. Somehow, all this romance was to no avail, because during the wedding night, Louis and Marie Antoinette had absolutely no idea what was expected of them. Apparently, neither of the newlyweds had been informed about the technicalities of their marital duty, and thus the marriage was not consummated. 7 years later, now King and Queen of France, Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette still had not produced any offspring. The lack of children being born was an unmitigated disaster for the country, and even more so for Marie Antoinette. The Queen's brother, Holy Roman Emperor Joseph II, feared that if the Queen did not quickly produce an heir to the throne, the King might exchange her for a more fertile woman, resulting in the end of the French-Austrian alliance. Hence, he tried to intervene by advising his sister through letters, which had no effect. When negative rumors about Marie Antoinette started to spread, it became clear to Joseph that his sister was in dire straits, and he set off for France, determined to find out why the young couple remained without offspring. Joseph arrived at Versailles on April 18, 1777, and during the weeks that followed, he kept a close eye on Marie Antoinette's behavior towards her husband. Furthermore, Joseph and Louis took walks in the Versailles garden, where Louis XVI was subjected to a thorough interrogation by the Holy Roman Emperor. Even their marital, personal life in the bedroom was discussed. Soon, Joseph came to the root of the problem. After 7 years of marriage, the couple still had no idea what was expected of them in the bedroom. Thus, Joseph had to have the royals informed about the birds and the bees, and provided them with detailed instructions for them to follow. 6 weeks after arriving in Versailles, the emperor left for Vienna again. Thankfully, Joseph's visit proved to be successful, as a few months after his departure, Marie Antoinette happily informed him that she was finally pregnant. A first daughter, Marie-Thérèse, was born in 1778, followed by 2 more boys, Louis-Joseph and Louis-Charles, and a daughter Sophie. Joseph's mission had succeeded. Little did he know that 10 years later, the French Revolution would remove Marie Antoinette and her family from the throne of France, the king and queen would eventually be beheaded, and the fragile French-Austrian alliance would be broken as war between the 2 nations erupted. Of the children of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, only Marie-Thérèse would survive the revolution. She went on to marry Louis Antoine, who was the son of Charles X of France. The couple had no offspring. Thank you for watching.